Welcome to our Free Speech Zone, where we do a deep dive into trauma and reintegration. This is Combat Citizen. Welcome back to the Combat Citizen podcast, where we do a deep dive into your trauma and reintegration, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you for likes and subscribes, and sharing this podcast is a big help to get the word out there and be able to share the stories of veterans. So thank you again. Also, thank you to the sponsor, BattleBox. Just make sure to check out their website, battlebox.co, or email them at yourbattlebox@gmail.com. So thank you very much. Well, okay, we have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Lisa, and we should have a great conversation today. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks for having me. Your intro music is everything. I kind of thought I was in a Top Gun movie.
That's exactly what we were thinking.
You're like, that's what I was going for. Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
All day long.
You have to have a good start to a podcast, right?
Oh, yeah. When it's like lame intro music, you're like, hey, bro, you already lost me on the engagement. I gotta go.
It's like, I'm click and go. I'm done.
Yeah.
Andy, where'd our guests go? Sorry, they're gone. They just pieced out. I don't know what happened. Go on.
Stuff to do. I mean, we started this off right, really, in a bar that's your screen behind you.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, what else can I do? No. See, background on the outside. No. We're just going to brewery. We're in a brewery.
I mean, but we took that and digressed real fast with Andy. I mean, it started and then it just went like right down the hill.
Oh yeah, yeah. We we have wonderful subjects on this podcast.
I really like that I'm getting blamed for it, but you know.
Oh,
the voice of God is getting blamed.
We'll eventually get a video on him, and then we can just talk. But for now, he's the voice of God.
Don't ruin it for me.
No. Okay, never mind. We're keeping the voice of God. We're gonna I digress.
I'm like, get the camera all day long, but when I'm on here, I want the voice of God.
Right. It's so funny when people don't they don't hear that, and then all of a sudden it's, hey guys, so I have a question for you, and we're like, whoa. We know Andy's there, but all of a sudden he's now there. Just like, because the people forget. They forget for the whole hour, and then all of a sudden, hey Andy, so do you have something to add?
And they're like,
to the conversation. And all of a sudden, he's like, so I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And we're like, okay, cool.
Just for you, the next time you do that, I'm just going to lean into the mic and go, nope.
Hey, hey, that's a yes or no question, okay? If you have it, if you don't.
Nope.
Any listener questions today? Nope.
Nope. We haven't seen anything come through, and I don't have anything on my mind either. So,
who are you?
Okay, we're ending the show now. Okay, thank you very much. I can already tell this is going to be a fun series of episodes or whatever.
We had a great first conversation though. I told you, dude, when I talked to you and then I went downstairs and I was to my husband, I was like, okay, the most serious question for you in the whole wide world. And I mean, we've been together like 13 years. So he immediately eye rolls at me. He's like, fuck again. Legit. And I'm like, look, I mean, we have no boundaries here, right? Like
no boundaries.
Okay.
Everybody, by the way, this is Free Speech Zone. Okay, cool. We got that established.
I mean, that was a reason we were in the military, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah. So I go, if somebody wearing a mask in their car by themselves is the equivalent of wearing a condom to bed by yourself, what is the equivalent if you're wearing a face mask and a face shield and then goggles?
That was it.
Glove. And he literally was like, he's like, I can't with you. And I was like, yeah, I know, but these are the random things that I think about when I have spare time.
Oh yeah, completely. I sit in coffee shops and I just stare at people. They're just like, what's going on? Oh, so what's going on in that brain?
I was telling somebody the other day about the strip clubs being open in San Diego because it baffles me. It just baffles me. Nothing can be open, but apparently they're an essential business. I mean, okay. It's
and then of course people are fighting to make small businesses essential again. And then you have strip clubs. You're just like,
which arguably some of them are small businesses and arguably some of them are franchises. I don't know. But
well, that's true, but
you can go either way on that. And someone I was talking to, who would probably be a fun guest for you. She's funny. She goes, well, don't they disinfect the pole between dances?
oh my God. I'm that's what he was like. Pretty sure they did that before the pandemic.
I thought they did too. I was like, I've had friends who've danced, and I feel like that part of things is kind of sanitary.
Yeah, it's like, hold on, don't get on the pole yet. We have to disinfect it.
Yeah.
You're just like,
I mean, the strip club, I remember that from the strip clubs I've been to. They're up there with like Windex and they're trying to make it cute. And you're like, you can't make cleaning cute, bro.
No, you've got all these guys sitting around and you got the pole in the middle and all of a sudden somebody comes out to wipe the pole. It's not sexy.
No.
Think about it. You're like, guys, turn your heads. Okay. It's not sexy.
Yeah, that's when you have the drunk conversation.
God. Guys, turn your heads. No.
That's fine.
This is not $1 worth, okay? Just turn your head. Wow, this conversation is great. I love it. Well, our first conversation was really good. I really like with the first 30 minutes we were talking, it was just distant, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we probably should talk about
focus.
Yeah, this is focus.
Focus.
Why do we want to focus?
Now, I really do like what you guys are doing with the podcast, though. I think you guys are doing some really awesome and very, very important work.
Thank you.
So I give you a lot of credit for doing the hard work. Or should I give the credit to Andy?
Oh, he's a master. Yeah, he's the magic man. Yeah. He's shaking his head. He's like, I'm going to take it. That's fine.
He's like, it's all my credit. You blame me for the conversation going downhill. You also blame me for the hard work.
I'm going to take the credit now.
Me.
Yeah, there's been times I've thrown him under the bus and like accidentally thrown him under the bus, and now we just need to give him the credit for doing really well with the podcast.
That's nice.
Andy, thank you so much for. He's like, thumbs up, buddy.
Love you too, bro.
All the while he's like, fuck you.
It's fair.
Now we need to do a true like, okay, free speech zone episode right now. This is awesome. Well, like, because when I get, for the most part, I've gotten guys on the podcast, and it's kind of it's a twofold. Like, there's some people that are like, can I swear? And I'm like, yes, you can.
No, the fuck you can't.
Yeah, I'm like, you can talk off my podcast. You can't swear, okay? This is a non-free speech zone for you only.
No. Only you. Yourself. We're not here for that.
No, it's like, what? Just whatever. Just do whatever you want. And there's some people who are like, don't even swear the whole time. I'm going, fuck. Like, I'm thinking it in my head going, should I swear? Should I not swear?
Isn't that the hardest when someone tells you not to, and then you're like, I don't know any other words?
Yeah, it's fuck and fuck. I mean,
here's the thing, Ryan. If you made this a clean show, it would be like that scene in the Blues Brothers where they're talking to the nun.
God.
And now everyone has that in their heads.
Oh, hell.
This is amazing. Oh, goodness. Well,
wow.
You haven't seen those studies that say that people who curse are like the most intelligent people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've read numerous studies on that because, I swear a lot. So I have to, think that I'm intelligent.
I didn't really start thinking about it until I had my kid.
Mm.
Oh, fuck. I can't say fuck. But can I? So she and I came to an agreement, and y'all can weigh in on this because I trust your opinions. Because what did she say that? Oh, she was she was trying to get dressed and she got tangled up in her clothes. We've all been there, so don't judge a 6-year-old, all right? Because you did that when you were 25. And she gets all
I did that last night.
my shirt. And she goes, I can't get this fucking thing on. And I was like,
oh shit.
And then I looked at my husband and I said, that's you. Just you got this. And he handled it. And then I told her, I was like, look, this is the agreement. Grown-ups curse.
Mm.
There will be curse words probably you won't ever be allowed to say because it's very socially inappropriate. Fair. However, you can curse when you grow up and start paying bills. Adults have earned the right to say whatever the fuck they want. You as a child aren't there yet.
I love that explanation.
And she was like, huh. And she's too smart for her own good. I can see like the wheels are turning in her head and she's like, it's off to the side. And I'm like, you got me? Like, you pay bills, you're adulting. I don't care if you're 16. You can say fuck then, but you have to be adulting. Like you have to know the rigors of the grown-up world. And she was like, okay. Fair. And we haven't had a problem with her since. She'll ask me though. She'll go, when I grow up, can I curse? Yeah, I don't care. Say whatever the fuck you want. Don't say it in front of your grandma. She'll probably get mad at you. But anybody else, fair game.
She's going to be a 12-year-old running lemonade stands, paying bills, and then saying fuck.
Probably.
She's like, wait a minute, I got to find a way to be able to say fuck. So let's start a business and then pay bills.
Dude, first of all, I wouldn't put her past her. Second of all, I caught her pretend recording a podcast the other day.
She's gonna be the next Gary Vee. I'm gonna do little lemonade stands and then baseball cards and everything else.
She's so smart and she's already motivational as fuck, dude. She had a boyfriend pre-K. I was like, does he know he's your boyfriend? Whatever. Let's just go with this. I don't care. And then we hit the pandemic, and school shut down. She didn't see any of her friends for like forever. And like a month ago, she goes, Mommy, the little boy and I, we broke up. And in my head, I'm like, did he know y'all were together? Out of my mouth, I said, oh man, baby, I'm so sorry. That really sucks. What happened? And she goes, I got sick of him.
God. Wait, how old is she?
6.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take all of that and we're going to parlay it into a YouTube channel. And then it's going to become a business and you're going to be a motivational speaker. The female version of Tony Robbins without all the scandal behavior. That's what we're going to do.
I'll watch that podcast. Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
And then she's paying bills and she's like, fuck.
Mm-hmm. But she'll be like,
saying fuck.
Well, at 12, I don't think I can get a work permit for her. I think she has to be 15.
Oh.
How do they do that with all the child stars?
I think a lot of times their parents end up being the owners of it, and then they just, workhorse their kids and then get the money. I don't know.
That seems wrong.
Oh yeah. I mean, you see some of these stars are like 2 and 3 years old on that have channels on YouTube, and you're just like, really?
I had a lot of people when my kid was like super little approach me about her doing modeling. She's very cute and she knows it. And I was like, no, that's fucking weird, dude. I can't. I was like, I have to have boundaries. I can't.
I can't. Yeah. I can't imagine if I was a child model. Like I was gangly and tall. It probably wouldn't work.
Name one who's now an adult who hasn't had a sex tape, a scandal, drug issues, gone off the rail. Like name one who's like normal.
I can't think about it.
This is my challenge for you.
That is a good challenge.
I'm thinking.
I'll have to. That's going to percolate in my brain for a while.
Right? Like we watched, because Christmas time, so I was like, naturally, I'm going to show her the good Christmas movies. Not Die Hard, I'll save that for later, but like Home Alone, like Home Alone 2, because she loves physical comedy, also kind of fucked up. And then I was like, she was like, oh, the Macaulay Culkin character, he's the guy who's on Mark Rober. Do you know who Mark Rober is?
No.
Oh, bro, you need to check him out. So he was a NASA scientist. He has a YouTube channel now, and he does science experiments, but he's like really cool. And he explains shit in a way that my monkey brain can like understand his physics level brain.
Sure.
He brings it down to a level I can get him. So he made this glitter bomb package. Okay. So somebody stole a package off of his front porch, and he was like, fuck that shit. Well, he didn't say that, but basically he was like, I'm going to build a fake package that's got cameras in it to record the person's reaction, fart spray, because that's a necessity, and glitter. And when they open the package that they've stolen, it's going to explode glitter. But it like the glitter part spins, so it has like centrifugal force, and then it just goes boom. And he had Macaulay Culkin test it. So my daughter's sitting there going, that's the guy from Home Alone? And I was like, yeah. And she was like,
no. Mm-mm.
I was like, I know. But he made a lot of money off those movies, so we're okay with it.
Yeah.
Do you?
Interesting. Okay.
So now you got to go and YouTube him. He did one where he created a ninja obstacle course for squirrels.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to check out that because I'm all about squirrels.
It was so funny. I think it's at 1 million something views, and probably 500,000 are mine because it's so damn funny.
Oh hell. Okay.
He like takes it to a next level. He's like, what kind of food do they like the most that can entice them to get the end of this obstacle course? So he's like running a scientific experiment and like taste testing nuts with them, and you're like,
oh god,
what do you have, dude? It's just, you know, the random thoughts in your head of you're like, I wonder how that would work. Like, what would a pool full of Jello look like?
And can you jump in it, and can you swim?
Yes.
Or you get stuck. Yeah, I'm afraid I do that all the time. I think about that stuff all the time. Yeah. I'm always saying to my wife, I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like,
can you not though?
Can you not? Because I'm going to walk off right now because that is just bullshit. It's like, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, I'm thinking.
Hey, can somebody to reach out to that guy and maybe set up a stripper obstacle course?
Dude.
Oh.
Immediately, this is where my monkey brain goes. I'm like, what do the liability forms look like? Because if they slip and fall and they get hurt, and them 6-inch heels, you're gonna get sued.
Oh, I gotta say, you're the female brain to me. My brain.
He was
exactly what I would think. Would be like, so liability issues, like if somebody,
yeah, like what does your insurance need to look like?
Do you walk into places and like analyze places, like actually? Oh, yeah. Okay. Because that's eventually what I want to do as far as like business consulting is go into places and be like, yeah, you shouldn't have that way. It should be moved this way, or whatever. I'm like,
oh yeah. You walk in and you're like, this looks like hell.
You need you're like, why in the fuck is that table like that? Like, you need to move it. It's not gonna work.
No, it's not going to work at all like that. So your wife and my husband have a similar life experience.
Yeah, there's times where my wife goes, I'm not even sure why I'm still married to you. I'm married, and
I can make so many inappropriate comments about that. I'm going to leave it alone. Just keep talking.
And then she's like, the thing about it is, if I let you go and I find somebody else and I have to train them again, and it's just not it's not good for me.
Too hard. It's too hard.
It's too hard, and I'm just like, I love you. Thanks. What am I supposed to say to that? Yeah, like, I'm still with you because if I wasn't, then I'd have to train somebody else. Like, that is the best line ever that she has said to me. And I'm like,
God, your wife and I could be friends. I think I've said that to my husband before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure you guys would have a blast.
It would be an inappropriate line. Hold on. had her on the podcast, you said you mostly have had dudes. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling special. I'm like,
I tried having so I tried having a lady come on the show, and then she listened to an episode. She was like, you know what? I think you're sexist. I'm like, did you listen to the episode? Like the guy, and so it was a back and forth conversation, and then eventually she was just like, no. Like I feel like you're male chauvinistic pig that is, and I'm like, you're a veteran. Like, what the fuck is going on right now?
What did you talk about on that episode? Good Lord.
Or
did she listen to like 2 minutes?
It was a short little snippet, and it was the episode with Ryan Harris.
Okay.
And he was basically talking about how he went from working in the infantry. Well, no, was it infantry or like, that to working in the office with civilian girls, and how it was different.
Huge transition.
But that's what he said. And then of course, like the gal's like, yeah, no, I don't know if I want to be on the show because, I had problems with guys in the military. And it was like,
I had problems with guys in the military too, but
I had problems with guys and girls, and I'm still bringing guys and girls on. So it's not like, yeah. So I haven't had any other girls I want to get on.
Oh, well, rip that Band-Aid off, didn't we?
Yes. For sure. First hour that we talked, I was like, yep.
Fit in well.
Yep. We're gonna have a great conversation.
Damn, that sucks though. But that sucks for him. Like you say that and I'm like, dude, that's a really hard transition on a multitude of levels, because then it's not just like the getting out of the military aspect and that transition, which is hard enough even when it goes smoothly, but then you're a civilian, which is totally fucking different. And then, I mean, in the infantry, you're surrounded by dudes.
Yeah, he was a combat medic. So he was.
And then you're saying whatever you like,
Yeah, and so he's in the office with these people, and it's just like, it's completely different. So
if I may jump in, because Ryan Harris is a close friend of mine. Heavy combat. He was in one of those. He was in one of those position. I forget what it's called now. A position, but not a fort. Help me out.
Are you talking about a base?
A base. There you go.
Yeah.
It was one of those bases that got shut down because it was deemed indefensible. So, I mean, it was ridiculous firefights all day, every day, all the time. Yeah. He was the medic there. And then going from that, directly from that to being in a clinical setting, you're probably going to say a few things just out of habit that are going to offend some people.
Yeah, let alone.
And the thing is to me, like, I'm making a
defending men,
but I'm like, I'm going to make a huge assumption, but I've never met him. It probably was completely unintentional, the comments that he made.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the comments he made are unintentional.
I'm like, bro, if bro is a combat medic, he's obviously an intelligent person, right? Like, you don't just like get that job. They're not just like, here, do this. But that's still, you have to adjust your mind. And then you also think like, he's coming out of such a heavy combat situation, and probably the way that he was dealing with the trauma in that when he was living it, and then transitioning out, it's going to look different. And then when he gets into a clinical setting, it's going to look totally different.
Yeah. So either way, the experience that he was going to have was going to be, painted or colored by his, combat experience. So any conversation he was going to have with anybody initially was going to be, could be offensive.
Yeah, but then I'm the type of person that I'm also like, that whole adage of you can't judge somebody until you've walked a mile in their shoes. I still think that's bullshit. Like, I don't fall by that at all, because you really can't understand that person even then.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can't be in their head. You can't. No. Yeah.
No, you can't. And then it's a matter of like, how much humanity are we willing to show one another, and patience and forgiveness and grace? And I hear situations like that, and I'm like, obviously what he needed was someone to not be critical of him, but to be supportive of him.
Yeah.
Because you can't walk away from, and thank God he could walk away from the situation he was in, seeing that much combat, and not have shit you need to process.
Yeah, he's definitely he's a good guy. I mean, he has a lot of things. I'm sure he's still probably.
I'm sure he is. And, that is part of the reason why what you're doing with this show, Ryan, is so important, because talking about how little transition there is, what have we heard time and time again from all these veterans? When you're done,
you're kicked out.
You're kicked. You feel kicked. You feel kicked out. It's like, well, thanks. Now get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no like really good closure process. Like even if you make it all the way to the 20 and the retirement and like all the things,
it's still, there's a door.
Yeah. Peace out.
I mean, like episode Matt Biggs, he was saying, when he was done, he was asking his command of what was his next steps. And they're like, see that gate right there? You walk out that gate and you're done. And he's like, so I've literally done 20 years. I remember right. I've done 20 years, and now you're just telling me walk out that door. Like that's all.
I feel like now, and I can speak to this a little bit because of my husband being active duty. So I don't know if Andy knows that, but he's active duty Navy.
We'll loop back here in a second, and we'll actually have you introduce say a little bit about yourself, and then we'll from there. Yeah.
And for his job, which is very specialized and specific, and you guys are smart and can deduce what that is, they have a program now that helps the guys who are retiring transition out. But it's not a program that you're just like accepted into. Okay. And for that, I kind of understand, because they do pump a lot of money into the guys. It's like a Head Start program. And I mean, they're even doing stuff like they're taking them to go buy suits.
Oh, geez.
It's an amazing program. It's phenomenal. Like, I can't speak high enough about this, but it's not available to everybody because of the amount of money that gets dumped into it. They can only take a certain number of people. So that part kind of sucks.
Okay.
But it helps a lot with, like, how do you, like, simple shit you're not going to think about. Like, how do you interview?
Oh, yeah.
How do you ask for a raise? Like, things that when you're in the military are just kind of given to a certain degree that in the civilian sector are not. How do you dress for an interview? Depending on what interview it is, what number interview it is, where you're interviewing at. Like, I say that to my husband, he's like, I don't know.
Number 5 I actually had a friend of mine. She's like, yeah, I'm on my the fourth interview in the same job, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really?
Hire someone by then.
Like I'd be like, peace out. Sorry.
I contracted with the military pre going into fitness full time.
Okay.
I worked for counseling services, because that's what my formal education is on, like psychology and stuff. And when I got promoted to the point where I was doing the hiring and the firing, it was a 3 interview process. I knew 5 minutes into the first interview whether or not I wanted the person. I still had to suck it up for the other ones. And so did they.
They're just like, I'm going to quietly tell you that you have the job, but we're going to just do a couple more interviews just to satisfy the process. And then I don't get my ass chewed. And then I'm going to be like, oh, this was the best person. You're hired.
You're hired. Pass the background check, please, God.
I know, right? Because first 5 minutes, I knew you were the job. I mean, I knew you were the person for the job.
Yeah, because so much of that is like how you vibe with people. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits I got from the military. We kind of talked about this, the like instantaneous connection. It's like that ability to read people and situations very quickly.
Sure.
I mean, you have to.
Well, and I would think that would be somebody that you would want to work with anyways, because if you're able to instantly connect, then you're able to, realistically work well together and sync and everything else.
Right. We were working with domestic violence victims, so having a cohesive team was mandatory.
Huh. Oh, hey. Oh. Okay. Sorry, I was staring at my video and it froze, and I'm like, it was weird. Anyways, random. So what did you just say? I'm sorry.
I was saying that I worked with domestic violence victims.
Mm-hmm.
So having a cohesive team was a mandatory thing for me. I had to have people I could work with.
You couldn't have people that are just like, I can't rely on you. I mean, that would be a tough. Yeah, I could definitely see that you would want to have people that you could trust and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's do this. Let's do back and actually have you talk a little bit about yourself, and then we'll figure out what next to talk about.
That'll be appropriate. No, I won't. Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Lisa Peranzo. I'm the CEO and founder of A Healthful Life, which is an online fitness platform for busy people to get their health and fitness back. Basically, it's fancy.
Nice.
And like, I have the fancy bio. I don't know if you guys have the fancy bio. I'll send you all the stuff after.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So you were saying, you're married to an active duty.
Yes. And I was in the military, but I was in ROTC.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into ROTC right after September 11th. And in the Army, look, I think I told you this. So I took the ASVAB and I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
I'm not fucking kidding you. I got hauled into a room with a bunch of other people in my high school. They sat us down. They said, take this test. I was taking the test. I was like, why do I care about how to change an oil on a car? In retrospect, I should know how to do that. Don't judge me.
No.
And apparently, I scored so highly on it that I started getting calls from recruiters, like left, right, and sideways. But the Marine Corps really, really scared me. So I went with the Army.
Okay.
And I started talking to the recruiters from the Army, and they were like, dude, your score is so well, like so high, we want you to apply for our ROTC program, see if you get in. And I ended up getting in. I still remember that was an interview process too, dude. A fucking interview for that.
ROTC?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if they do it that way anymore. I would be curious, but I had to interview.
That's weird.
Like with my future cadre there. And I remember, so it was like right after September 11th.
Okay.
I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened. Ooh, that just aged me. Don't do math. And one of he was a captain and he had gone, he was enlisted. He commissioned as an officer, green to gold. Am I saying that? Yeah. It's been a long time.
I believe so, yeah.
He went green to gold, but he was a special forces officer. And he ended up deploying like very quickly after my interview. Oh. But we're sitting there in the interview and I'm like talking to, there was a lieutenant colonel and a major and then this captain. So I'm like talking to the two of them. And I remember being like, I had strep throat. I had like a paper due. I didn't really give a fuck. So I was just sitting there answering their questions about life. But I'm also like not even 18. Like, I don't know what I want to do in 5 years. I guess I need to start thinking about this shit. So I started I bullshitted the whole interview. This is horrible, but I did. Yeah. And I remember the captain sat there and he goes, well, you know, September 11th. And I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's a big deal. Where are we going with this guy? And he's like, you know, we're going to war. Yeah, kind of deduced that on my own. And then he goes, are you ready to die for your country?
You're like,
he said in the whole interview. And I answered honestly. I was like, honestly, at this point, it wasn't really something that I had considered because I wasn't really considering going into the military at all. However, when I commit, I fucking commit. So yeah, I guess so.
Let's do this shit. Let's go.
Do it. And then I got it. And I ended up getting hurt fast roping. So it was technically perfect, which I have to say, I didn't fall or do anything crazy like that. And I would have done it again had I not gotten hurt because it was really fun.
It is fun.
It is fun. But when I landed on a rock. And my right foot shattered, fractured, and dislocated. The middle of my foot just completely imploded. It ended up looking like cornflakes on a CAT scan. Yeah, dude. I had this Navy doctor tell me, I don't know how to fix it, but I'll sure try.
You're like, next, please.
Next. So I didn't walk for almost a year, like for the better part of a year. I had multiple surgeries, physical therapy, so many things that all your listeners can relate to.
Shit.
It was not cute, but obviously it was a transformative experience, and it was in a really, really interesting time because when I got hurt, the war was really at conflicts, whatever you guys want to call it. It was starting to pick up. So I knew that if I could get rehab to the point where I could get back in, because the Army, God bless the Army. They were like, we're going to still pay for your school. We want you to keep going to school. And we're going to give you as much time as you need to figure out like where your physical capabilities are so that we can determine whether or not we can commission you.
Okay.
Which was amazing because it was such a weird situation. And then I got like really embarrassed about explaining it to people because a lot of people didn't know what ROTC was. They didn't know that the R stood for reserve. So like I had an enlistment contract, but I had the ROTC contract, but I had an enlisted ID. And it like there were so many intricate levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so weird to explain it to people that I ended up like just shutting it down and not talking about it. For like years, I wouldn't talk about it because I didn't want to have to explain it to people because I felt let down that I couldn't get my body all the way back. I couldn't run again. And you kind of need to be able to do that. And that was the only thing that held me back. And it took them like 3 or 4 years to actually like discharge me.
Dang.
I kept trying. It got to the point where I would go in and I would get cortisone shots from my surgeon, who is amazing. And then I would go run. And then I wouldn't be able to walk for like 4 days.
Oh, hell.
And then my doctor was like, if you come back in here, you're coming in here for me to cut you open. Like, you got to fucking stop on the shots. And I was like, I guess this is it.
Okay.
And I would have stayed in. I mean, when I could like really kind of embraced what I was doing, I was like, well, if they're going to pay for my education, I don't milk this shit for all it's worth. So I'm going to do my 20. I'm going to get all my fancy degrees and the letters behind my name. And then I'm going to come out with this like awesome work experience, resume built, no school debt. I'm going to be good to go.
Sure.
You know, what a great thought for an 18-year-old to have.
Let me milk this for all it got. Let's do this.
But I will say, like, being in was so much fun.
Mm-hmm. It has its benefits and its fuck ups.
Yeah. And then getting out was weird as fuck. Especially because of the ROTC aspect just made shit like really, really weird because when I got hurt, more people were leaving as opposed to coming home. I think I said this to you when we talked before. It was like things were heating up. So we were like building up troops in the Middle East, pouring people over there, but no one had really come back yet. So no one really knew like what the fuck to do with me. They were like,
so you were just in limbo for 3 years.
Totally. And I would see active duty people and they would tell, I had active duty people tell me that my experience didn't count because I didn't get hurt like in a true active duty setting. Even though I was on a training exercise.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
It is tricky. So technically, and this was the loophole that the Army found for my family and I. And I could fuck this up. So if somebody has like better information than me, please share it. But it was I was on a training exercise. And that made me technically active duty while I was training. So that's how they could cover everything for me and still do. Like, I want to make that very clear. The Army as a whole did not write me off. They continue to pay for that injury and take care of me.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a gnarly dude. My mom drove me to college because I couldn't walk.
Well, so can I ask, as a civilian, I mean, what happens if, let's just say, I jump in basic training and 10 days in, I have bad knees. It was a problem in high school. So 10 days into basic training, I blow one of my knees and like real bad. So now I'm done. What does that look like?
I would say they wouldn't even let you in because of the bad knees.
Yeah, I mean,
well, actually, that's true. They didn't let me in because of the.
Yeah. And I've wondered that too. Like, what does that look like for a person who goes through basic training who ends up like getting hurt? Do they let them rehab and then?
So I have, before I got in the military, I had like, for my knees, I can like hyperextend them. Like, it's just, wish I could show it to you, but
I've seen that before. That's weird. And also,
yeah, no, I mean it. When you so you sit on the ground, have your legs like behind you, right, and your knees on the ground. I can lay on my back just fine, and with my legs right next to. I don't know if I can do. I haven't done it in like a while, but anyways,
if I do it now, I'm gonna get stuck, but I can do it.
Yeah, I'll probably get stuck and be like, "Hey, baby, can you help me up, please?" Yeah. So, but that, I mean, I could do that, and so that was a lot of the times my knees would, they would hyperextend out, and it just get stuck or whatever. And anyway, so I had that, but it wasn't too much of a problem, throughout my life. And then so I got into the military, and then I was at basic training, and we were doing lunges in the sand pit over and over and over and over. And I'm like, guy, I'm gonna have to tell you, to the drill sergeant, I can't do this over and over again, otherwise I'm gonna get hurt. And they're like, fuck it, I don't care, you're gonna fucking do it. And I'm like,
okay,
I'm trying to tell you, really trying to tell you. And all of a sudden it was just fucked, and going back along like years before that, I was playing volleyball and I jumped up, landed down, and then when I went to pivot, my knee stuck and didn't pivot. And so it just hyperextended it out. And then I ended up, going to the hospital, whatever. But so fast forward back into basic training, I'm like, I know something's going to happen. And it did. And so I ended up being on crutches for 2 weeks. In basic training, eventually I just said, fuck it. And I just needed to use it because I was being berated by my fellow, whatever, fellow platoon people. Not coming to mind. Anyways, the guys in my platoon, and, it's amazing. So yeah, long story short, but.
So they didn't have to roll you or anything like that?
No, because I literally just took the pain and just, put it in the back of my mind, and then just finished basic training and then AIT, and then just dealt with it, which sucked balls. But, it was one of those things. I'm like, I don't want to go home.
Yeah.
Because there's
a shit storm at home. I don't want to go home. It's better for me to be here. I'm gonna suck it up. I'm gonna suck.
Because the economy sucked balls, and I'm like, well, I got in the military because my business. Well, when I went in, I had a business, and I'm like, well, the economy somewhat killed it, so I need to do something to be able to support us, And so I went in. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna suck it up, and I'm gonna do what I need to do. And lo and behold, I ended up passing, I got through that, and I have stories. It's awesome. Anyway, this is about you. But anyways, when you leave, just real quick. So when I left, there was an instance where we're coming out of the chow hall, and we had to line up, and our platoon had to line up, and then obviously, drill sergeant would take us back to our barracks. There was a time where they were so retarded. So one day they were so retarded, and we're all lining up, and they're just giving everybody the shit sort. Drill sergeant hadn't even gotten there yet, and they're just being so stupid. Finally, I said, "You know what? Fuck you guys." And I literally walked, and this is something that doesn't happen very often, because you as a soldier walking to your barracks on your own.
Oh, you don't do that.
You don't do that.
You don't do that.
I mean, you do not do that. And so I'm walking by myself.
Oh, Jesus.
Back to the barracks. Luckily, no drill sergeants, nobody saw me. And I got back into my barracks. And then, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, my platoon comes back, and they're just pissed because I wasn't there. They got smoked because I wasn't there, because I was missing. But the drill sergeants never came to find me and to tell to smoke me either. And so all the guys are up just like pissed off at me for days, and then just ran out. And I'm like, you guys, you're acting stupid. Like, I was like 28 when I went in. So,
oh God. And then you're dealing with like 18-year-olds. No.
And I'm like, cause they're thinking I'm younger, cause I look younger, and they're like, you look, I mean, they just, anyways, their mentality and their attitudes were just so.
The 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
No 18-year-old is that smart.
And I'm like, guys, sorry, fuck you. And I walked off. It was glorious. That was my moment right there. And I'm just like,
fucking can't with you.
Can't do this. No. So, yeah. So I'm curious. So you were talking about, that whole experience was like a transformative experience for you. Now, what was your mindset for the most part, like between during those 3 years and then afterwards? Of now you're like, I'm in, but I'm not in, and then I'm out, and it's like, so what do you think about, I guess?
It was kind of like, I've had enough time and space from it now that reflecting on it, I can equate it to like grieving a death.
Okay.
I think I walked through the stages of grief, because at first I was within the first few hours of me getting hurt, no one really knew the severity of the injury. They thought that I had just broken my foot. So I'm thinking 6-8 weeks on a cast, I'm fucking back. Like, I wasn't even stressed on it.
Sure.
And then the first week I went and got a CAT scan, and it showed the actual extent of the damage. And then it was, we need to find a doctor who could fix her. So that's when I found Navy surgeon, who said, I don't know, but I'll try. And I was like, nah, you can get the fuck out with that. That's past.
You're not touching at all.
Don't touch it. And then it took 2 more doctors before I found my doctor.
Oh, geez.
And they couldn't even operate. The swelling was so significant in the foot that they could not even operate on me for the first 9 days. So I felt the bones starting to refuse and heal themselves.
Oh, wow.
By the time it was fuck. Fuck, man. And I remember in that moment thinking, nothing will ever be as bad as this. If I can get through this, I will be able to get through fucking anything, because nothing will ever be as bad as this. And I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't even started the rehab process again. All of that was on the horizon. It hadn't even started yet. I wasn't even there yet. I had to have surgery, and then move into what I was moving into. And then it started when I got past the first couple of surgeries and started into my PT and it started to become clear to me I probably won't be able to do. I'm going to fucking try, but I really don't know if this is going to happen because I was really conceptualizing how bad it was. And it's funny. I actually was talking to an Army medic like last week, and he was like, "We see that injury all the time." I was like, "The fuck?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "That." He was like, "That is such a common injury that people hurt their feet fast roping because they never put you on like the proper surface on the bottom." And we were on like a plateau, but it was a rock face.
Oh, okay.
So there was no give on the ground. Any kind of pebble, I mean, that's physics. Even I can understand. Like I'm fucked.
Yeah, you come down on that thing, it's gonna. Yeah, it's pressure and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like your medial and lateral arches. So you have an arch on each side of your foot. He's like, those are the most sensitive aspects of your feet. Like they are fragile, those parts. He's not wrong. I know that. So
I like that.
I know that. I mean, I was so mad. I was so fucking mad. And it was like, I wanted to be out there with my friends and like my squad and my platoon that were within ROTC. So for you guys all know this, I'm sure, like within ROTC, you have a command structure.
Sure.
So I wanted to be with my people and I felt like I was letting them down. And then it was also like, why the fuck did this happen to me?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Like what? And then, because the conflicts were really picking up, everybody's response was like, well, because probably you would die if you went to Iraq. And I was like, yeah, fuck, that's that's what you come at me with? Like, really, bro?
Like, really? Come on.
Oh, no, I got told that a multitude of times. I'm like, that's cool. No. And then it was like, okay, if I'm going to reconcile all of this, like when I got to the point where I was walking again, when I got to the point where I could go to college by myself, I was like, I need to talk to someone. Like I'm at the point now where I can't get past this by myself. And if I don't figure out how to work, I didn't want it to define me.
Sure.
So how do I reconcile everything? How do I grieve this? And keep in mind too, like I'm very active in the grieving process. And then I turned 21. So it was like, I'm going to grieve by drinking my ass off.
Sure.
Because that's what 21-year-olds do. And that's what I did. Sure. So it was like, how do I come together with all this so that I can do something with this chance that I've been given? Because I started to come to the point where it was like, and this was not an overnight thing.
Right.
I mean, we're condensing it down because we're on a podcast, but this took years for me to finally get to the point where it was like, obviously I've been given a second chance. If you meet me now and you see me in person, if you don't know that I was that hurt, you wouldn't know. Which is an amazing thing. And then people hear my story and they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we can't even tell. Like you walk totally normally, like you're doing all the hard things. And I'm like, yeah, but fucker, if I'm running, you better start running because I'm being chased because I don't run for fun.
You want me to run 2 miles? Let's do this. It's chasing me.
Yes. And then it was like, what am I going to do with this second chance? I was at that point, by the time I was getting out, I had friends who were commissioning. They were going into their job specific roles with the Army. I also had friends that decided to get out of ROTC, go the enlisted route completely so that they could deploy, like maybe they were reservists or whatever, and or National Guard, and they wanted to go with those units. Sure. So I had friends who were coming home from Afghanistan and coming home from Iraq, and it was a lot of like transition and stuff. And it was seeing this like, wow, we're not as a whole set up for this. At all. So if I can't be there with them, how can I support them after?
I know we're going to talk about this in many other episodes, but I think that's a good point. We can start on another episode.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about that. So, gosh, that is just. I was just thinking of like, I know we condensed it, but I've worked with, when I was in the military, worked as a medical readiness. And so I worked with people that were dealing with some of the similar things. And it's just amazing the journey and
Mm-hmm.
where the point A to point B kind of journey that they're on. Not just, foot problems or knee problems or whatever, but it's just amazing that kind of journey. So.
Yeah, and it's when you were talking about your friend who, when he retired and he was talking to his people and he was like, "What do I do now?" And they were like, "There's the gate." Like that was the experience that I had.
Right.
Like they have given me all the things, but when it got to the point where it became very, very clear to them that I would not be able to meet the physical requirement, which was very hard for me to wrap my head around, the fact that I was the liability.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to like really come to the conclusion of. I was going to be the liability if I stayed in. And that was them telling me that. That wasn't me telling me that. Like I could potentially get somebody hurt because I can't run away from the danger.
Right.
So when it got to that point and they were like, no, like we're done. There was nothing after that. It was gone. It was like it never happened. It just vanished into thin air. I can't imagine being 20 years in.
That's crazy.
And that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience, obviously, very, very different. I could not imagine devoting the majority of your adult life at that point to that entity and then just being like,
peace out, done.
Peace out. And I get like with my situation when they were like, you're out, and then I lost contact with everybody I was in with. And I get it. They were deploying, they were going, they were taking over troops. Their mind was somewhere else from where my mind was at.
Right.
And their mind needed to be in that game to keep people safe and alive.
Sure. Yeah, it's crazy the change, that occurs going from being in to not being in or whatever. And we could both probably talk about many experiences of that. Cool. Well, I think we're gonna definitely bring you on a mini episodes. We're gonna do
I
this.
love it. This is a fun group.
This is gonna be great. Eventually, what I'd like to do is have several people on, but right now, anyway. I was thinking about the other night, like doing a round table, like because I was chatting with a guy, real short, and then we'll turn it off. But I was talking with a guy that was chatting. He was still in the military, and he was giving me a bunch of resources and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about, yeah, we could totally do a round table, like have a couple vets and whatever else. And
if you're able to get that set up, Ryan, yeah, because we can have up to 12 people on. 12 would probably be pretty nuts, but 4 or 5 people on at the same time, kind of cool. Sharing experiences. That would be a nice long format one. Something that's like 2 hours long.
Yeah, because that way we can bring in different topics or whatever else. Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Cool. All right. Well, we definitely have something to look forward to. More stuff. More shit. Yes. Cool. Well, thanks for getting on this first episode of mini. Having a recurring guest is going to be great. So
yes, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's always a blast to get to spend a morning doing something that you love to do, right?
Hell yeah. 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 Cool. Well, thank you for joining, and then we'll figure out some more times. So
cool.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we just ask that you subscribe, like, and share as much as you can. So just want to get the word out there and get people to hear the stories and the experiences. So thank you, everybody.